Live and learn, right? Big deal.
Okay.
I want to say something. I mean, we thank a lot of people, but I think there's two people here that nobody thanks, and I think we all kind of want to say thanks to Bob and you for all you do.
Yeah.
Well,
Paycheck, don't you? Can I pass the hat?
yeah, we get paid, so well,
I'll pass the hat around. Don't spit in it.
well, thank you, Gene.
I did.
And by the way, I need to talk to you too.
Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah. Okay, welcome to the safety meeting. This is the March Air Force Base, our Air Reserve Base Aero Club. And my name is Roger Mann. I'm the safety officer, and of course Bob Pierce, the manager. And we got our chief pilot sitting over here, John Law. And let's see, who else we got? Oh, we got our ops officer over here, John Reed. He's the guy that you want to talk to if you want to be a clearing official. If you've got 200 hours plus flying as a PIC. All right, new people. And this includes any advisors that started coming. Okay, all right, new people. Come on. Stand up.
My name is Tate Dyer. I just joined the club a couple weeks ago. I've talked to John on the phone. I just put together that was you. And looking forward to spending some time out here and flying with you.
Welcome to the club. Okay, who else? Okay.
Master Sergeant James Ritchie from Quality Assurance for the group. I'm actually just representing Quality Assurance tonight. The regular guy is Dave Reyes.
Yes.
He'll be attending more of these.
Good. All right. Thank you. Maybe we could have you join the club before the night's through. And along with everybody else too. Well, we don't miss a thing on that. Okay. I know.
I'm Tony Gold, pilot with the 912th Air Refueling Squadron with the Active Duty Associate Unit with the reserve counterparts or 336. So I'm the wing liaison to the Aero Club and report to Colonel Sigler. So if any questions or concerns, please come to me. Thank you.
All right. Okay, anybody else that I don't see? Let's see. Ward, you're new. It's been months and months since you've been around. So.
Do I beat him?
And Mike Martin.
How many hours did you have, Roger?
What's that?
You're new compared to me.
Oh, baloney.
3 months.
You were.
shows up for their officials.
And let's see. Let's go to the next subject so I can pick on Mike Martin. Okay, new pilot ratings. Has anybody done something new in flying? And this includes Air Force too. It doesn't just and only the club.
I flew a local.
Wow, really?
I already did first in like 4 years.
That must be, yeah, that's a novelty.
Mike, are you Airbus qualified?
Oh yeah, I got my Airbus.
That's what I wanted to pick on you. All right. So now, so we have to, you know, think about you every time you fly one of those things. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, no violations or anything? Gee whiz. Guys, now, I know darn well that you guys that fly the Air Force planes, you have an emergency every time you go up.
Not anymore.
Well, I guess that's true with the C-17, but the KC-135?
If it's gonna die, it's gonna die.
Yeah, you got great maintenance. Well, you didn't used to. No, that was a jab on you, David. Yeah, David used to be KC-135, and then he retired. So. Okay, experiences. Okay, this is where you get to tell your story on something that's happened to you that can be exciting for the rest of us.
Oh man, I met this blonde the other day.
Okay, I know you guys, let's see, you guys has been to school, you know, some of you have some exciting stories, but where's George? George always has something to talk about.
I got nothing.
Nothing? Oh, I find that hard.
He did.
So what airport are you the manager of?
Ramona and Fallbrook.
Okay, yeah, and there's always something happening at those places.
Yeah, we had an Osprey make an emergency landing there.
Oh, see? There you go. All right. Okay. Bob's going to talk for a couple of minutes. Then we're going to run over Know Your SOPs, and then we're going to talk about Are You Lost? Tonight we're going to try to make it short as I can, if it's possible. For you old timers, you know that it may not be possible, but I try. Okay, we're going to do a little bit different than normal. Okay, normally I stand up here and talk and make a fool out of myself. Tonight I'm going to try to sit down myself, and we're going to watch a little short video that's kind of. It's a little corny, but it gives the point. And it's done by AOPA. So we'll watch that tonight on Are You Lost? Okay, Bob, give us a rundown.
Okay. By the way, thank you, maintenance, for showing up. We haven't seen anybody in 2 years. And I don't know how you worked it out. I have my own viewpoints and how you can trade off time and stuff, but I do appreciate it because I have to report back to the colonel in the morning of whether you showed up or not. So he will be happy that he helped solve an issue for me.
We actually got all three.
We got all three, which is which I think. Oh, we get safety all the time back there.
Well, safety comes all the
I
time.
just want to bring the club up to date. You know, flying with weather and everything else has been really hurtful to us, and we're not doing as much in training as it is. So far. Since October 1, we're down in the hole about $4,500, which means somewhere between now and September 30th of 2013, I've got to make that up some way. We're fighting to stay alive. That is the absolute bottom line. We know that Wright Pat, Scott, and Eglin have all closed. They were making money. So we're the only reserve aero club. And it's been around since 1952. That's about when Fred was around. You didn't hear that, but anyway. So if you haven't flown as a student for a while, you need to see me afterwards because the longer you wait, the more it's going to cost you in the long run. We don't want to see you waste a lot of money if you need training, because if you fly once a month, you're just playing catch up. You're wasting your time. And you're not doing yourself any good in trying to get a private pilot's license if you can't fly weekly. And I do realize that, like today, we had extremely high winds and rain, and we've had fog, which has been unusual for December. We've got a lot of funny weather in the last 3 months. So anyway, we need to work on that, and we've got instructors. John Law, our chief pilot, is working on this, so we're looking at maybe 1 or 2 other standbys to work part-time for us on the weekends to help fill in the time that you would be available. So if you haven't been flying, you need to see me because Alex is gone and we're not sure what his schedule is. So if you're waiting for Alex, it's going to be a day late and $1 short for you. A few errors on the credit card slip, so I thank you for all trying to keep those errors down to a minimum. For Roger, every once in a while we do find one. For closures for the holidays, we will be closed Christmas and New Year's Day, although the club is open 24/7. As a club member, you can fly on those days even though the tower officially is closed. When I say officially is closed, they don't have basic operations, but as club members, we can fly on the 1st. They do man the tower for those holidays. It looks like the 31st we may be here for a half a day. The 24th is now iffy for me. I may be here to open up and then maybe close around 10:30 for myself. I have to be in Orange County by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Roger will not be here, and then we have New Year's Day, and we're back working the day after on the 26th for December, and on January the 2nd we're back opening on for full time. Runway closures. Runway 30's been open and closed a couple times. They've got power lines that they've trenched through the runway. So there's a trench that's perpendicular to the runway itself. If you begin to find that the fill and the asphalt is settling, be sure and let us know so we can get back to operations and tell them it's going to create a problem. The middle section of runway 32 and 14 are available. The southern end is presently closed, and then they're going to take and close the middle section and finish off their work. And whether we can take and use any of those other ends, I'm not sure what the length of the runway and the availability will be when that takes place. So all this is supposed to be finished somewhere around the end of January. That was my last word from Ops Group. And that's all I have. Those people who missed the Christmas party, we had a good time. Thank you for the support for the year, and I wish you the best for the holidays. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. That's just a quick rundown of who your instructors are. Fred can do T-34s, piloting and command only. He can't fly until what, January now?
January? December 28th.
Yeah, the end of the month.
Okay, end of month, yeah. Okay. All right, we do a real quick know your SOPs here. We'll do this real short. What we do is we just, each meeting we go through like a paragraph or so in the SOPs. Many of you know that every year you got to take an SOP exam. When your anniversary comes up, you got to take the standards test and the SOP test every year. So, and we got one individual who's taking it right now. Matter of fact, that's why he was doing it just before the meeting here. All right, right now we're covering Chapter 4, and this is just student pilots procedures. But for us guys who fly a lot, you know, you might behoove to just pay attention to what the students are required to do too. Paragraph 487, flight restrictions besides those specifically stated in your records and agreed upon you and your instructor, the following will apply. And there's a whole list. I just put one up here, and that's night flying. There'll be no solo night flights. This is students only. Dual local night flights in accordance with approved training syllabus, that's with your instructor, and then with your instructor cross-country night flights in accordance with training syllabus and route approved by the chief flight instructor. Most of the students should know that you don't do anything without your instructor's approval. The rest of us who are already qualified pilots understand that before you can fly a cross-country where you're going to stay overnight, you must turn in a flight plan 4 days prior to the day you're going to fly. Because the idea behind it is that we're supposed to be able to look at it and see and make sure that you've done all the proper planning for wherever you're going to be going, especially if you're doing any really, really long distance flying.
Plus the request.
What's that?
Plus the request.
Well, yeah, that is a requirement. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Real quick. NASA Aviation Safety Reporting System, which is, how many know what that is? Okay. So a lot of you guys that fly should know. It's just well, some people call it the get out of jail card. What it is, it's a program where you basically tell NASA on something where you got in trouble for some reason. As long as you didn't crash an airplane or kill somebody. If you got out of it, fine. If you think the FAA is going to write you up over it, you might want to fill one of these things out. Because what it does is that if you fill it out, fess up to what happened, and tell exactly what happened and give it to NASA, and then if the FAA decides to violate you for whatever it is that happened, then the violation gets stopped because you turned in this. So that's why they call it a get out of jail card. I know pilots that carry a whole bag of them. I know commercial airline pilots that carry a whole bag with them and turn one in every time they fly. That's a little, you know.
Excessive.
But there are some real genuine ones here. And these are some of them here, and I'll just read one, just one. And I'm reading this because we're on an Air Force base where we have C-17s and KC-135s on it. Most airports we don't have to worry about with general aviation. However, unless you land at a place like Long Beach or John Wayne Airport where you got jets, again, now you have to kind of watch out. That's what this article is about, and I'll read it real quick. This is the pilot that turned in the aviation safety report. Fortunately, the pilot at the controls of this Cessna 172 was experienced enough to handle an unexpected blast from a wide-body jet powering through a turn. This is his quote. During landing rollout, a taxiing wide-body turning left onto a taxiway, jet blasted the Cessna 172 in which I was the CFI. Our aircraft became airborne momentarily, and the tail of the aircraft was pushed strongly to the left. I did manage to keep control and prevented any damage to the runway or the aircraft. I believe that if an inexperienced pilot had control of the aircraft, the outcome could have been much worse. I can only imagine what the outcome could have been if we were still airborne. Then he goes in here and he really gets upset. He says, ATC did not advise of nor seem to notice the hazard of the jet blast. The wide-body transport was taxiing slowly around and turn, and it is possible that he was using one engine to taxi with a lot of power in the turn. His opinion is, I think that the airport should not allow these aircraft to taxi with one engine. ATC should not have allowed anyone to land near the wide-body aircraft when this type of hazard is possible. Or they should not have let this size aircraft use the taxiways when the adjacent runway is in use and traffic has cleared to land or take off. The point of this is, watch out when you're taxiing out to the runway. The tower does not necessarily always know what's going on with the airplane that's near you, especially if you're taxiing by a C-17. Because you might get some hot dog pilot out there who, one of the articles in here, it was two, one was a 767, the other was a 757, and he almost blew the 757 off the runway as he was trying to land, because the guy was sitting there with his engines facing out on the runway, and the tower didn't think he was going to run up his engine. He was just sitting there. But for some reason, the 767 guy ran his engines up, and they almost went off the side of the runway on the 757. So if you see a C-17 that's got the backside facing your airplane, you know, Cessna 172 or the C models or even the T-34s, beware. They might just decide to run just one engine up, and it can be disastrous. I do have a video, and it was made by, what do you call it, that TV show where they're trying to prove...
Mythbusters.
Yeah, Mythbusters. And they actually have one in there where they actually have an airplane, a Cessna 172, going right behind a 747 going full throttle. I've been trying to get it downloaded, and that's one of the ones I want to try to get someday, so I can show it on the meeting here for those of you who haven't seen it. But it's a real, it scares you when you watch it. Okay, enough said. Okay, and because I didn't have this thing set up the way I should have, let me see if I can find the video now. Here we go. And
congratulations, you did it. After long hours of training and study, and a few lessons you thought were your last, you earned your private certificate. Of course you plan on being very careful. You know, low-time pilots have higher accident rates compared to higher-time pilots. And that's not surprising. Higher-time pilots have more experience. Right now, you could probably hold your own against just about any VFR pilot, after all the training and prep work you did for the check ride. But flight time often falls dramatically after the intense preparation that precedes a flight test. And lack of recent experience, combined with lack of total hours, means your skills will erode rapidly. And that's why you're taking extra precautions, like that new handheld GPS you bought yourself. Thanks to state-of-the-art equipment like this, even a pilot in a rented 150 can have the same degree of positional awareness as the captain of a business jet. After training with VORs as your primary source of electronic navigation, a GPS can really simplify the job of getting where you're going. And unlike VOR, if one satellite goes out of service, there's usually enough redundancy to continue on your way, so the system is more reliable. Of course, nothing is foolproof. Without external power, the batteries may wear out while en route. But that's not a problem if you've got spares on hand. For pilots who never flew in the pre-GPS days, it's hard to appreciate how much it's changed en route navigation. Just a few years ago, pilots had to navigate VOR to VOR to be certain of their location. GPS is just one of the technologies making flying safer and more fun.
pay attention, George.
Charlie, 734 to the Sierra, departing 30 Frederick.
The camera getting fancy. Get down. What's Doug? What's Doug?
GPS receivers are filled with screen after screen of information, scalable moving maps, trip planner, CDI, and more. Information that makes flight planning and tracking a breeze. This leaves the pilot in command free to enjoy the serene, tranquil rhythms of traveling by air. What's this? Low batteries?
Oh no. Oh no. Oh boy.
But you've got those extra batteries, don't you? Well, sure you do, Dave. You don't mind if I call you Dave, do you? You're wondering who I am, right? Well, I'm the little voice that goes off in your head to remind you what you're supposed to be doing to keep you out of trouble. Now, about those batteries, Dave, where are they? That's right, stowed in the baggage area. They might as well be 100 nautical miles away. Hey, don't blame me. I was busy watching to make sure you did the pre-flight correctly. Well, you weren't really relying on the GPS that much, were you? You remember what it said on the startup screen, don't you? That's right. Unless it's certified for instrument flight, a GPS isn't supposed to be used as your primary means of navigation. Okay, just use the VOR. Is that a flag?
Yeah, there's a flag.
Are you out of range? Or is the VOR out of service? Or maybe just unusable at your altitude and bearing? What did the NOTAMs say? You didn't get the NOTAMs? Dave, where are you? It's surprising how quickly those familiar landmarks disappear. That's one of the reasons you were taught to plot and track your route. Many pilots don't bother to carefully plot their route after their check ride, and frankly, most of them don't get into trouble. But it only needs to happen once to realize the problems it can lead to. You don't know where you are.
Guess what I'm gonna do is turn in 121.5.
Hey, Dave. You're going to broadcast on the emergency frequency? Wait a minute. You're forgetting the first rule. Don't panic. You may be lost, But is this an emergency? How much fuel do you have?
Yeah, well, fuel's not so bad.
You've got plenty of fuel. This is no emergency. If you don't know where you are, your fuel state is always the first thing to check, because that determines your options. It can spell the difference between a minor blunder and a true emergency. But this isn't an emergency. Not yet. This is an opportunity for you to learn how to reorient yourself and regain positional awareness. A GPS malfunction isn't the only thing that can lead to loss of positional awareness. Haze can reduce visibility, making pilotage difficult, or ceilings may be lower than expected, forcing you to fly at altitudes where you can't get good VOR reception. Winds may not be as forecast and can blow you off course. An electrical or other failure could knock out instruments you rely on for navigation. Growing darkness can make navigating by ground reference difficult, and weather could have moved in, making the route you had planned unflyable. The sectional chart, not an electronic device, should be your primary tracking tool. And no matter what navigation equipment you're using, pilotage should remain a constant. Stick to the basics taught in your flight training. Routes should be drawn out on the chart. Landmarks and VOR radials noted before flight. Times at checkpoints should be noted. Anticipate what's coming next and be looking for it. If you get lost, fuel is the most critical concern. If fuel is low, taking prompt action is essential. You know that, right, Dave? Make no mistake, if there's any doubt, don't be afraid to declare an emergency. Don't wait until it's too late. Make the call and get help. And set power to best economy or maximum endurance. You did remember to lean the engine, didn't you? Remember, you can't even get close to book fuel consumption if you don't lean properly. Many pilots just out of flight training fly with full, rich mixtures. Fuel isn't the only critical consideration in whether to call for help. Other factors also come into play. The amount of daylight you have left, surrounding terrain and obstacles ahead also play a role in judging the best response to the situation. For example, if you were flying through a mountainous area and unsure whether you're north or south of a pass you're supposed to fly through, you can't plunge ahead and try to figure out where you are later. After you've determined that there's no immediate emergency, you can use pilotage, radio navigation, and dead reckoning to reestablish your position. The first big question here, how lost are you? That's right, there are degrees of being lost. Do you have a general idea of your location? Is this a situation where you think you know where you are, but the landmark is lost? Or are you totally clueless? If you have a general idea, finding yourself may be relatively simple. But let's say you're really lost. This is a learning opportunity, right? So let's do a little situational simulation. First, note your compass heading. Write it down and note the time. If it's taking you a few minutes of zigzagging to figure out you're lost, try to determine the general heading you were flying when you realized you had a positional problem. Once the general course you've been flying is established, locate your last known position on the chart. Maybe it was a bend in a river, a cooling tower, a VOR, or an airport you passed. What heading were you flying that took you there? Was the point on or off your course? If it was off course, on which side and by what distance? How long ago was it? Pre-flight planning gave you a general idea of your expected ground speed. Let's say 120 knots or 2 miles a minute. Let's say, for example, you've flown 15 minutes from your last confirmed position. That's 30 miles. Draw a line on your chart from the last known position out to 40 miles. Describe an arc of 45 degrees on either side, and assuming you haven't been abducted by space aliens, you've got to be inside that arc. Now look at the chart and try to determine your general position. Note nav aids and landmarks you can use to help reestablish your position. Remember that you've got to fly the airplane and look for traffic while you're trying to sort this out. See why losing positional awareness can create cockpit chaos? Depending on your estimated distance from that last known point, returning to that location may be the best option. Fly the reciprocal of the heading you noted, adjusting for the effects the winds have already had on your course. However, if a just can't miss it checkpoint is only a few minutes ahead, stay the course. Locating your position may be as easy as tuning in a VOR, finding the radio you're on, looking for landmarks on the ground, and getting a cross-check from another station. This is another reason to get a thorough pre-flight briefing. A VOR you plan to use may be NOTAM'd out of service, or it may have radials that are unusable at certain altitudes and distances. If you try using the VOR in these cases, you could become even more confused, because you could be exactly where you think you are, yet the VOR can't be used to confirm your hunch. Losing positional awareness is a stressful situation, no matter how much fuel you have on board. In your haste, you could inadvertently dial in the wrong frequency, so be sure to identify the VOR station. Now center the needle to determine what radio you're on. Rotate the OBS ring so the arrow points to the station and the indicator reads 2. The radio you're on is the reciprocal of the indicated radial, the one that's on the bottom of the ring. Draw a line along this radial from the VOR station. You're somewhere close to where this line crosses your course line. Once you know the radial you're on, the next question to answer is how far from the station you are. Using another VOR to get a cross radial is one simple way. Fly toward the first VOR, keeping the needle centered while you tune in the second VOR. If you're in an area where VORs are few and far between, or in a mountainous environment, picking up a VOR may also be problematic. Climbing to a higher altitude will improve your reception, but you may not be able to climb. There could be an overcast layer above you, or in the mountains, it could push you to oxygen altitudes. If you can only pick up one VOR and can't spot any landmarks to help you determine distance, the easiest way is to fly to the VOR. Again, keep your head. Pilots have been known to center the needle without turning to the station. They stay on the heading they're flying, continually centering the needle, getting farther from the station and more confused with every minute. It sounds like a hard mistake to make, but strange things happen when you're alone in the cockpit and lost. If you can climb, do it. It'll give you a bigger picture of the ground as well as better radio reception. It will also increase the range of your radio transmissions in case you do have to call for help. Look on the chart for landmarks that should be visible from the aircraft. But don't just look for landmarks you see on the chart. Look at the surrounding topography too, and look for any outstanding features of the terrain that can help you locate your position on the chart. Look for lakes or rivers, power lines, railroad tracks, or highways. Now look on the chart and see if you see any corresponding features. Look for a series of landmarks that can't possibly be mistaken. The airport south of the highway on the island east of the Twin Bridges has so many good landmarks associated with it, it's impossible to miss. Bet you wish you were going to Bay Bridge, huh Dave? NDBs are also good sources of positional information. Look for any NDBs on the chart, then dial in the frequency. Identify the NDB just as you did the VOR. This will assure you're picking up the signal you intended. If you lost positional awareness at night, you'll be robbed of most visual references. For that reason, if you're going on a night flight, even more planning is required. It's imperative to chart out the route beforehand, selecting nav aids to use and cross-checking radials. Plan to complete flights over unfamiliar territory before sunset. Many experienced pilots require higher ceiling and visibility when flying at night. What happens if you can't regain positional awareness on your own? Even if you have plenty of fuel, but you can't reestablish your location, by all means call for help. That doesn't mean you have to declare an emergency. Remember, FARs mandate how much fuel reserve you need for a VFR flight. The Air Safety Foundation recommends at least 1 hour reserve for all flights. If continuing the search on your own will compromise your fuel reserve, it's time to ask for assistance. It's relatively easy for ATC to find you with its radar. But how do you find ATC? It's unlikely you have instrument approach charts on board. The charts have the controlling ATC frequency for each approach. That makes it easy to flip to the approach for an airport somewhere in the vicinity and find the ATC frequency. There are other ways to find the frequency. Contact the tower of an airport in your vicinity and ask them for the frequency of the controlling ATC facility and whether it's a center or approach or departure control. You can call flight service also on 122.2. Once you find a frequency you want, whether a tower, flight service station, or an ATC facility, tune it in. Don't start talking. Listen first to make sure you don't step on a transmission.
Leesburg Radio, Cessna 734 Zulu Sierra. Cessna 734 Zulu Sierra, Leesburg Radio, go ahead. Cessna 4 Zulu Sierra is about 30 miles northeast of Frederick, Maryland. I need to get an ATC frequency for this area, over. 34 Zulu Sierra, roger. You can contact Washington Center at 132.5. 132.5 for Zulu Sierra. Washington Center, Cessna 734 Zulu Sierra. 734 Zulu Sierra, go ahead. 734 Zulu Sierra is about 30 miles northeast of Frederick, and I'd like to confirm my position by radar. 734 Zulu Sierra, roger. Squawk 2244, NIDAM. 2244 for Zulu Sierra. Cessna 4 Zulu Sierra, your radar contact over the Hanover Airport. 4 Zulu Sierra, thank you.
Remember, the easiest way to avoid being lost is to update your position on a chart. Don't rely on only one instrument. Use your VOR receivers. Note the time at checkpoints. Note the difference between forecast and actual winds. Use your eyes to check for landmarks. Practice pilotage. If you do lose positional awareness, follow simple procedures. Check your fuel. If you're in a fuel critical state, call for help. Call ATC or 121.5, the emergency frequency, for assistance. If you're not in a fuel critical state, determine your last known position. Calculate how far you've traveled and in what direction. Gain altitude if possible for better reception of nav aids and a better look at the ground. Use your VORs and NDB. Once you've reestablished your position, make sure you still have enough fuel to reach your destination. If not, look for a suitable alternate and head for it. Congratulations! You kept your head, reestablished your position, and found the airport. Time to pat yourself on the back? Maybe not. Finding an airport doesn't always spell the end of an aviator's problems. You still have to get the airplane on the ground safely.
The rest of it is on landing, and he runs into huge crosswinds, and it's another 10 minutes long, but we'll end this right now. What's the minimum fuel that we're supposed to have here in the Aero Club?
3 hours.
Well, close. Yeah, that'd be better. 1 hour. Yeah. And of course, they're recommending that here in this film, but the Air Force mandates it. Okay. Let's see. All right. Questions? No questions? Art? None? Okay. All right. You have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and come on out and fly. The weather is supposed to be better. It is.
What happened to the sign-in sheet?
Sign-in sheet should be out there somewhere. Where is it? Okay. All right then. Next meeting is on 15 January. Cool. All right? Okay.